Welcome, everybody, to the Scale Up Show. This is your host, Ryan Staley, and I have a very special guest with me today. I have Ori Karen. He is the founder and CEO of LinearB. At 42, he co-founded the company in 2019. It's a leader in software delivery management solutions. Something really cool is they raised $71 million for a Series B in May of 22. And on top of it, too, he, as well as his co-founder, were the first remote co-founders moving towards $1 billion valuation. Ori lives in Tel Aviv. His co-founder lives in Santa Monica. So really, really unique way in terms of the remote space of creating a very big company fast. Ori, welcome. Happy to have you on the show, man.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to go through some of the things that we nerded out on prior to the show. So, but before we do, let's do a real quick revenue rundown so everybody understands what stage of the journey LinearB is at. I know I mentioned Series B in the show, but where are you guys at in terms of your ARR?
So we're a private company. We won't get into all the specific details, but we grow from a couple of hundreds of ARR in 2021. We grow 6x, then we grow 3x in 2022. I'm sure people can do the math more or less. And we're projecting to grow 2x more or even more than that this year.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
So you're growing pretty fast in multiples year over year. Love that. What's your primary go-to-market strategy for growing the company?
Yeah, so it took us some time to understand exactly that, but in this, I would say that we took our time growing in the mid-market, focused on that segment for a long time, and weren't tempted to go after enterprise customers. I'll explain. So those mid-market customers, we acquire them in two ways. They either came to us in a very, very top-down way, saying, "Hey, we want to trial a product." Our product is a great product. We're product folks. Both of us have product DNA, both of the founders. So it's you demo it, you trial it, you want to buy it. So part of it was coming like that, and part of it was coming from a bottom up, hey, stay in our free tier, which was up to 8. Look, it's limited not in terms of feature, but in terms of the amount of people that can use it. And all of them got into this flywheel of some of them wanted to try it immediately. Some of them were nurtured over time. And we stay there in the mid market because it's a high velocity end to end sales cycle. It was great because the ASP grew still in the same velocity, still end to end 30 days. And it grew dramatically, the ASP there. 3-4 quarters ago, we kind of understood, okay, now we're ready to go up market and we're ready to go commercial and enterprise. And we built, of course, the product capabilities for that, the go-to-market functions for that, everything. And we believe that's the right journey. We're operating in a field we call it software delivery management. It's kind of new, still not a full commodity. I think it's crossing the chasm right now into, early majority, and a significant portion of the market are starting to use it. So that was our strategy, to stay, make sure it's sticky, make sure with the mid-market customers. That's how you can do it. Make sure it's being used, then scale it up to the enterprise, of course, with enterprise capabilities or best access, so all of that, and brought great go-to-market team to support it. And now it's so fun to see the bigger deals flowing in. So I hope it kind of answers about our strategy.
Yeah, no, it does. So are you using predominantly outbound event-led growth, or what's your penetration strategy?
Yeah, I would say we're doing a lot of we invested a lot of in webinars, and we have a great podcast called Dev Interrupted for engineering leaders. We do a lot of things when we talk about the industry and what we should be thinking, how people should be thinking about it, or at least, and we bring a lot of guests, around it. That creates great interest. Some of our prospects are discovering us using a free tool, and then they get into this system where we nurture them. So I would say like 80% of it is they're knocking on our door somehow, and then 20% is like outbound.
Wow, it's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's good that you're materializing that. I love doing the podcast, and the webinar model is interesting as well. There's still good use cases for it, right? If it's done effectively. How large is your team right now?
We're 100 people in the company, and we're my founder lives in Santa Monica, or now, by the way, moving to the East Coast. But anyway, in the US, I'm living in Tel Aviv, and we're literally 50-50. 50 people more or less in Tel Aviv, and 50 people more or less like around like the US.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
How did you guys meet? Like, that's kind of an unusual story where you're so geographically separated at the co-founder level. Like, how did you initially meet, and then how did that kind of happen?
Yeah, great question. So we worked together in a previous company. We met in a previous company where we worked, a company called CloudLock that was acquired by Cisco. Both of us are coming from R&D background. So the great thing with working with Dan, who's my partner, is like that. Originally, he was reporting to me, so I was like the VP of R&D, and he was director. And then at one point, I kind of like moved to a more CTO type role, and I told, hey, who's the natural candidate to take the R&D is Dan. So he moved like to be like in my previous role, and I wasn't reporting to him, but I needed him more. Like I needed resources from him, I needed people from him. So we worked in all these permutations, getting a lot of like mutual respect to one another, and this like high level of trust. So when I called him and say, hey, let's start something together, it was very natural. And that's how we get over a lot of challenges, even when we're far away, and even when COVID was, at its prime, when we were like, because we meet every quarter, but then there was like a part in time where like 10 or 11 months we couldn't like meet face to face. It was so crucial to have this level of trust between each other.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's like one of the key factors for success for
Oh,
us.
definitely. I mean, I think try that. I mean, a lot of co-founders struggle with that, is the trust factor, and that's why it doesn't work out. It's kind of like a marriage. It is a marriage. Like, so, being a co-founder with someone sometimes is more intense than a marriage, right? From what I hear, and I don't have a co-founder currently, but that's what's been shared with me. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely. I already like, yeah, you go through all the phases. It's very much like marriage. You go through a lot of similar phases, and you gotta, exactly like a marriage. I'm married with 2 kids. You gotta work on the relationship, continue to work. Even if you have trust for 10 years, you gotta continue to work on the relationship.
it's true, man. It's very true. So walk us through your solution in like 2 or 3 sentences, just so you, the listener, has an understanding of like the context of it.
Yeah. So basically, LinearB is a software delivery management platform. And in simple word, what it means is that we help engineering teams measure themselves. Engineering was the last department in the organization that was kind of like a black box that can't be measured. There's a lot of academic research that now says, okay, here are the key KPIs that you can measure. And we call like our philosophy of our product or our platform is we help the engineering leaders kind of like rule their dual mandate. And their dual mandate is kind of like, on one hand, the engineering leaders need to speak internally, measure internal things, the developer experience, some key KPIs internal that engineers understand, even though I keep saying we because I see myself as a developer still. We don't like it, but we understand that we have to now measure as developers. And there's the other side of the FinOps of the engineering, which is super relevant to in general in these days, because there's a lot of like pressure coming in from CEOs, CFOs. Hey, we got to understand where are we investing, how much we're investing. So
Right.
LinearB, the software delivery management, helps like do both of the things. We take it even one step further, because we believe once you spotted problems, you just it's not enough to look at them. So we give like a platform where you can program your workflows and how you solve them. We don't need to get to that level of technicality, but that's our differentiator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's great, because everybody's trying to improve profitability right now, and as I don't know if this has hit you, but some of the tax changes with developers as well, being allocated as R&D versus to write it off, like has that had a big impact on your business? Actually, that took effect earlier this year in 23.
I wouldn't say big impact, but that's part of what I said, like the FinOps side of engineering, right? So how you like the investment and what do you classify as research, etc. So we empower like teams, engineering leaders on that side as well. When people use our product, it improves that relationship between like the CTO, SVP of engineering to the CFO, or which I can speak a lot. We can just do an episode of how that relationship evolved, because I was twice a VP of engineering in my past. But yeah, so it also helps with that.
I can imagine. Well, let's walk us through. Like you've had rapid growth. Now I know you're backed with funding, and that always helps, obviously, to have cash to be able to fuel that growth. However, like what would you say is the biggest reason that you've been able to grow so fast? And then like, what did you do tactically to make that a reality?
I think there's one side of me that says like we were in the right timing, solving a problem that existed, by the way, for a long time. But us and probably other companies, other competitors saw it in the right timing of, hey, it's not, there's now an opportunity to kind of like open that black box, measure like the efficiency of engineering teams. So I think the fact that we started in the right timing was a good start. I think it's a big advantage for us, LinearB, that we're both with strong product DNA and lived those.
Mhm.
We lived that pain and those problems I lived them for 20 years. And then when you take that and you apply, I'm not a go-to-market expert by no means, but I think like if you apply good, you surround yourself by good people that you can learn from, and you apply good common sense on how to penetrate a market, how to iterate when something is not working. Have this strong connection between product to the go-to-market strategy.
Mhm.
That's like the key factor to success. I can give an example. Like when we started in 2019, we had really quickly, we got like 15 customers, like the design partners. They were happy with the product. They were logging in, loving the product. But we said, hey, like we're seeing like the maybe head of engineering using the product, logging in once a week, looking at dashboards, identifying problems. But we kind of said, hey, like that's not like, if we really want like people to, like engineering teams to improve, we got to make sure to democratize the data, like release it, make sure it's like available to other engineering managers, to squads, so they can see where they have bottlenecks as well. So on the product side, we kind of say, hey, what kind of use cases we can give to those personas? On the go-to-market side, we said, let's give it for free for a squad of 8 people, because we're doing a good thing, and also in a very thing that serves us. It got us like a lot of momentum, because we got a lot of like free support of people who are interested in our platform. It accelerated our learning cycles, and it created demand, because people were coming on the field and say, oh, I want it for my entire team. So I think that's one example, but that dance of back and forth between like product capabilities to go-to-market strategies, I think that's like what helped us like to scale.
Okay. Yeah, I think obviously it makes it a lot easier if you have an amazing product, right? So that doesn't hurt. Like I guess like one of the things that I'm thinking about is like when you first start, right, and you're trying to value the go to market fit with a business and grow it, there's an abundance of options, right? Just tons of different options you could choose, tons of different markets you could pursue. And then there's like a fine line between being stubborn and pushing through the shit sandwich, if you will, that you have to eat to make it a reality, versus like leaning into something that's working really easily. So like what's kind of like your formula or your codex for like understanding like when to push through or when to pivot, right? Because That's hard for a lot of people to understand and deconstruct.
Yeah. I'm trying to. Great question, because I'm trying to think of examples. You got to be persistent, and then persistent can really easily become into stubbornness and go like hit a wall or something. So nobody tells you, hey, when you're like crossing that threshold. So I think it's the formula is like release something, listen to your customers. It's almost like, if I have to analyze the first 2 years, it was that release things, listen to your customers, iterate, fix things, not by the opinion of one customer. Here's another cool thing, and I don't know if it was intentional or lack or whatever, or intuition, but the fact that we didn't go after enterprises from the beginning, we just got the fact that you had like a big data set of customers,
Mm-hmm.
let's say in the first year 15, and then grow to like even 30, 40, or even more than that, 45, I think, gave us like a good perspective of like, maybe one customer said that, but here's a cohort of like 30 who are saying, hey, I need this. So
Right.
I think that helps a lot. So if you get to a big number of customers, a big data set quickly to give you feedback, that helps like to understand, hey, am I stubborn here or no? Like, okay, this is a big enough cohort of data coming to my way saying, hey, this feature is being loved and this feature is not being used. So that's one thing I think that is really important. And again, what we learned, because we both come from R&D background, what we learned, I think, very good in year 3, 4, when you have to scale or go to market, is like, okay, how do you overlay this with a good go to market strategy as well? Okay,
Right.
how does the features that I have right now, yeah, they serve good like mid market. So okay, let's stay there. It was enough for me to have like two big enterprise customers that dragged us through like 5 or 6 months of procurement just to get on a trial and say, okay, I get it. Like, we'll get to you, but give us like 2 more years, like, or 18 more months, like, to work and learn more and close more deals on the mid market. And that's something I didn't know coming into this business. I just learned it. And so again, to me, that I hope it answers. That's like kind of like my long
Yeah, it's
answer.
kind of your approach. That makes sense. I think it's like it's like, do you run lots of tests then? Like at early on, did you run lots of tests in terms of like not on the product side, but let's say on the go to market side to match the product? Like, okay, we're gonna try these 3 channels and we're gonna evaluate them for 2 months and then we're gonna take it from there. Or how did you kind of like frame it up or look at it?
Yeah, so on the product side, is easy to answer. There's, of course, we ran a lot of tests. On the go-to-market side, it was what I would say, like, what we identified really fast. There's a big vacuum. It's a new space, and engineering leaders, they're lonely. It's not like when you're a developer, you have like tons of conferences and resources. It's a very lonely
Mhm.
job. I even wrote a blog once that it's lonelier than being a CEO, because
Oh wow.
as a CEO, you have like peers of this, and VP engineering, you have like your people that you speak, the people that report to you, and you got to speak the engineering language. And then you got to sit at the table with the business people. They speak almost a different language, so you got to be able to translate it. So I think what we identified really fast, and we experimented there, is like, how do we reach them, talk to them about the problem. So we did a lot of like thought leadership content in blog, a lot of that. So how, and kind of examine that channel, how much demand that drives. Then we had people who were passionate, like starting a podcast. So we started a podcast. We saw how. So we did a lot of experimentation around like what drives demand here. And again, the product was good. So it was more. It's still from the day one. It was get people to try it. That's our main challenge, or was our main challenge. How do we get people to try it at a large enough scale? So yeah, we definitely iterated on, hey, does the thought leadership content work? Is the podcast working? Is giving the product for free working? Which one of those channels are working better? And again, we have data driven like DNA, so we were like all about looking on all the channels, seeing what's working, doing more of that.
Well, so, and that you got me thinking as well. I know you mentioned your go to market was a lot of webinars at the beginning as well. Like, did you leverage a partner strategy to get access to other people's audiences, or did you just do those as kind of standalone on your own?
We did it like the webinars were standalone. The Dev Interrupted podcast, which is our podcast, we did small partnership at the beginning. But here's the thing: like again, because it was such a vacuum, there was
Yeah.
almost nothing for engineering leaders. It was a lot for engineers. Really quickly in 3 or 6 months, it's flipped into people like from we're chasing speakers to the best companies in the world coming and wanting to speak at our podcast. And that's I think it's identifying that need of people to kind of speak on this problem. And I also think my partner, all the compliments to him, my co-founder Dan, did an amazing job. He's such a great listener and a facilitator and a great podcast also. It created this great avenue or channel where people wanted to come and talk and be on that.
Definitely. Okay. So let's shift gears a little bit. So it sounds like, I mean, obviously you're doing an amazing job. What are some of the biggest challenges you run into now currently to hit your next phase of growth? Like what are like roadblocks or the biggest barriers that you see?
Yeah, I think it's a the market changed from and we were never in the camp of like let's grow at all costs, but it kind of changed from some of the atmosphere outside was hey, don't worry, take capital and grow, and we were always we're conservatives in our and we even had people giving us advice, hey, too conservative, take more and grow, to okay, how do you grow efficiently now? So I think the challenge of a lot of companies in our phase, going from a Series B and now in a year from now Series C, to kind of like understand, how from seed to A, it's like, hey, prove that you have something and you just know how to sell it to one or 10 customers, and then from A, see that you have a repeating. From B to say, okay, specifically in this economy, is like, how do you scale efficiently? So just getting into the mindset, it's not simple. It's like, how do you do this transition? Sometimes we were lucky again because we were conservative. It's luck and intuition, I think. So we didn't have 300 people in the company. We have 100 people in the company, and so we didn't have to do layouts. It's more about, okay, let's control now the pace in which we grow, in terms of like grow fast and then lay out people, because then it changes the momentum of the company. So I think challenge number one, scale efficiently. Don't stop looking on your ARR bottom line, but also, okay, other very important parameters in growth, and the cost of acquisition, etc., retention patterns, etc. So I think that's number one. And yeah, number two is like growing from, it's different both in engineering and in sales and in marketing, when you have teams in sales of 25 people and now growing into 50. You just need to grow strong management layer across the company. The communication patterns when you're 100 and if you want to go to 150 are different. So those are like the challenges that I see. How do we keep the same level of strong execution and just continue to grow the company? It's a communication and methodology, and how do you scale it?
Mm-hmm. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean that's a big jump always is having that that cost efficient CAC, and then just continuing to improve retention as well, and NRR. So I see that a lot, and so we're just almost up on time. But one question I wanted to ask you, which I'm bummed we didn't get to talk about, but I was fascinated about some of the other things that they were hitting, is like, what are like some of your favorite use cases with AI? Both, let's say, both on the product side and then on the productivity side. We'd love to hear your perspective on both.
Yeah, so I can speak about what we're doing and my thoughts. I think again in our space, it's really interesting to see Copilot and a lot of people trying to help write code and generate code, and there's a lot of And I think the role of developers is changing. I don't think it's replacing developers, but it's more like instead of them focusing on generating the code, it's about the points that in the development pipeline that they need to kind of like be a part of and kind of examining and review the code and enhance it and enrich it, etc. So we said to ourselves, hey, like there's always already like tons of company like kind of like in that space of like how the code is being generated, and LinearB is in a great position to kind of like look and what's happening in the further down the downstream in terms of like how does the review process look like, continuous integration, continuous deployment, all of that. And these are points that sometimes you need to apply a human factor, and sometimes you can still automate. So it's really interesting, and we have a great position to kind of like be the one that can help orchestrate all of that and not compete with people who are trying to generate the code better. That there's enough people like focusing on that. So that's how LinearB involved. But specifically, what I love about it is like we're doing some cool stuff internally with Gen AI. So we're doing, for example, our product is very easy to use, but it is technical. So there are questions. So sales reps can ask questions, and it used to be that they're coming into a Slack channel or something, and they're asking, hey, how do we solve this problem? How does our product help to solve this problem? And they used to have to wait. And remember, I told you like we're in Tel Aviv and in US. You know what happens in like if they ask it on a Thursday, 4 p.m. their time, it's already weekend. Israel works Sunday to Thursday, so now there's a Gen AI bot because that kind of learned our help docs that answers them immediately, and they don't have to wait for a human like from product side like to kind of answer that. It's something we built internally. Also around security questionnaires, we built something internally. So we built a lot of small apps that improve our internal productivity just to make sure that you go, I don't know, like 3x, 5x faster on those things. And there's a lot of cool things we can do in the product, like we'll get to that in the right timing.
Excellent, man. Well, I'm excited for you. Excited what you're doing. Excited for your growth. So, where can people find you? Where can they find out more about LinearB? And then we'll wrap things up.
Yeah, me specifically on LinkedIn and Twitter. Those are the places I am more on LinkedIn. And LinearB, of course, everybody can go to linearb.io. If you are like engineering leader, ask for a demo, see a demo, try the product for free. If you're more of a practitioner, we have like a cool product called Gitstream that help people like write rules on how to accelerate some of the things we talked about. Yeah.
Excellent, man. Well, Ori, it was a pleasure having you on the show. It was a lot of fun. Loved your perspective. Loved just how authentic you were in terms of the journey and what you had to go through to make it happen. So thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
Yeah, it was fun. And I will see you on the next episode.